Gonna be doing something a little different this time than normal reading creepypastas, you know that. I'm gonna be doing a raw read of the Pinky and the Brain Lost episode. And basically raw read is I haven't read it, I haven't gotten to read anything. This is just gonna be bam bam bam. That's it. And if I mess up anything, then yeah. No cutouts either if I move the computer either or flick at something. Or even a cat that's in my bed right now even does anything. So let's begin. Pinky and the Brain is a cartoon from the 90s. It starred an evil mouse and a sub 30 IQ one. See, already fucking up. And they plotted evil and shit for who knows what reason. Some suggest that their cause was world domination. After analyzing their symbolism in the cartoon in search of a master's thesis topic that could get them through their mail order universities, create your own degree programs. And those imaginary students were right. It was later learned that the creators of the show were into BDSM, kinky, and they later disowned the cartoon after realizing they had revealed their fetish to the world by projecting themselves into anthropomorphic rats, or mice, whatever. I don't want to disrespect those characters. I'd be like if I called you a turtle. Fuck you, Lisa Turtle. What the fuck just happened? What? You should have accepted my obsession gestures when you were still high and at Bayside's high. What is going on? What is going on? Can someone help me? I already want to stop. What is going on? Lisa? Oh my god. Regardless, I stared down at my TV dinner, chicken, potatoes, corn, and that piece of black magic stuff. What? And that piece of black magic that fluffs up in your microwave. You mean the brownie? Or the... Wait, I don't know. Do they even sell the brownies anymore? Oh well. It's probably plastic, but they call it a brownie. I knew it. As for me, I'm also brown. What? And ready to pot for the way life has fired up. And ready to pop from the way life has fired up my own nerves. Let me continue on. Desperately hoping to figure out where my life went south, I skimmed through my VHS tape collection, Pinky and the Brain. The penulant, if I can say it, Pemulant VHS Classic. One of the tapes read on its label. I went to pull the tape out of the cardboard sleeve. It had been splintered over the years, just like my soul was. Ha! I constantly cut myself on the edge, giving myself a piercing paper cut that I licked in hopes that I had struck blood. Why though? Obviously the tape slid through my hands at one point. It would have hit the floor, but I had my TV dinner prepared, sitting right where I knew the tape would land, as I safely vowed. Fried chicken grease, smashed potato starch, and half-frozen brownies splattered all over the picture of Brain and the mouse's head, body, and asshole. What the fuck are you? What picture did you put up on here? I felt like there was a message somewhere in the incident, somewhere about life, or at least mine, but I couldn't figure out what the secret message. Just like I couldn't figure out a reason with living. If only life had a secret decor ring. It doesn't, but YOLO. At this point, I realized I had my VCR setting sideways. The proper way to set your VCR is vertically, so I readjusted it and put the tape in. A few minutes later, however, the tape stopped. The tape popped back out. It was burnt, steaming hot, volcanic to the tips of the paper-cut fingers. The tape had melted into some kind of liquid paste. It seemed that, like all things I touched, I had ruined this tape, and any chance of figuring out how I ended the failure that I am today. I sighed deeply, and applied another shattered piece to my wrist. A piece of Scooby-Doo collectible jar I got as a Happy Meal toy a few years ago, that is. Luckily, I had another Pinky and the Brain tape. Pinky and the Brain. The last episode it read in size 26C symbiotic font. Strange. I don't recall the last episode of Pinky and the Brains, and since I found it, I guess it was no longer lost. I wish I could say the same about me and God. Can you not be a depressing asshole for 2 seconds? You're like Hannah Baker from 13 Reasons Why. Ha, suicide joke and suicide movie. Okay, I'm gonna move on. Now suddenly, right before my eyes, the title... Okay, if I can... Now suddenly, right before my eyes, the title metamorphosized to Pinky and the Brain. The once was lost but now it's found episode. At this point, I realized that God was probably real and watching over me. So I was no longer sad. Shut up, dude. Still, I realized that my VCR must have been broken, so I went into the kitchen and propped this tape into the emergency VCR. I opened the door and tossed the tape in, setting the timer to 5 minutes and 76 seconds, which I guess comes out to 6 minutes and 16 seconds. If you have no life and care about the accuracy of facts, I tend to tell you all these things. As I was sitting around waiting and masturbating against my doctor's orders, I finally heard a ding sound. I'm about ready to stop. What the fuck is going on? The tape was fried. Its insides were melted again. Yet again, I had fucked up. Just like Father always said I would. An exact way. But wait, what was this? A voice right behind me. Here, take this, a voice said somehow, reminding me of Orson Welles. I turned around. Now, I'm not sure what he got in, but a man with a large head who was otherwise a midget noticed me and offered me a gift. I'm so fucking confused. There was a stern look on his lips, and a strange vow of happiness emitting in his eyes. I came back in time to give you this. It was the tape I had just had, now in perfect freaking shape, and some sort of strange device. It's a VHS. I can't speak for God. It's a VHS player, the midget hissed. Why you gotta be a midget? Well, I set it all up and what to do. And what do you know? It worked. I told the midget that I was intruding on my property and he had to go home. He told me he had no home and I said, don't we all? He said that's not true because apparently I have a home and he doesn't. I told him I'd be willing to keep him as my slave and he bent down and started sucking on my cock before I could inform him that he was not that kind of slave to me. What is going on? What is going on? What is going on? Seeking how I just masturbated, I was not in the mood for anyone to even think about my dick, so I grabbed him by his collar and threw him outside like the intro of the Flintstones or something. What is going on? Cece, what is going on in this? Well, I was in the process of beating up the time-traveling homeless man and was telling him to get a job even though no one would hire a homeless person, obviously. He told me that he had already experienced my rejection of him when he had visited me in the past previously, and that I was going to pay for my disobedience and the horrific foul moral values with my life. I unwisely ignored his warning and was just happy that after walking back inside, these antics had taken so long that all the pre-episode commercials had played. The tape was already up to the show's theme song. It was already altered from the basic theme song I'd come to know and love as a youngin'. They're Pinky and the Brain. They're Pinky and the Brain. I'm not singing this shit. One shoots blanks with a semen, the others into chains. To get their hormones out, they prefer bondage a lot. They're Pinky. Pinky and the BDSM loving master-slave relationship. And as the classic DN followed, I went to press reject from the VCR. I was disgusted that they actually put a lot of sexual reference into a children's television program. Then I realized the irony, as I was an adult watching the children's television program. I guess it wasn't my right to judge. I let the tape keep rolling. The episode began with the two mice, I said it right the first time, whatever, standing behind in the cage on the laboratory desk. An envelope on the desk was addressed to the show that the episode took place in New York, New York City, New York State, 10108. I blanked out and thought that how the internet extravagates the goodness of the flavor of bacon. By the time I was back into enjoying the animation program, the two mice were in the middle of what apparently to be a tattletailing conversation. Pinky, are you pondering what I'm pondering? I think so, Brain. But why did the Twin Towers fall? That way, if they were just flown into. Thank you, Pinky in the Brain. What insightful intellect! I'm about ready to shut this fucking thing off. What is going on? In a fit of violent rage, Brain bitch slapped Pinky across his face. Pinky's two front teeth graphically and violently flew out and landed in some latex intern snickerdoodle ice cream cone. He proceeded to eat the ice cream cone until he accidentally swallowed Pinky's teeth. I guess thinking they were chiclets and choked on them until he died. This sent a chill down my spine. Luckily, it was a warm day and I was wearing my parka, so I didn't feel a thing. I didn't mind feeling a little cold, but this was still strange. Excuse me, what? No, stupid! We're going into the cryogenesis chamber and reviving the greatest genius of all time. Dudley do right, Pinkley unintelligibly mumbled this time. I cringed and covered my eye, anticipating what would happen to him next. Ah, who needs you? Brain responds. He was clearly pissed off, and it looked like a vein was about to snap in his neck. I thought he was going to just hit Pinky violently again, this time, because I have an anxiety disorder. I was too scared to watch. Yet I peeked through two of my fingers and was surprised to cover my right eye when I saw what I saw. There was another cage sitting next to the one Pinky and Brain were standing in. Inside of it was a snake that, compared to the two, was as gigantic as a behemoth's inflated penis. What are you talking about? Nothing that the bars of the cage were actually far enough apart that the two could escape at any time they wanted to, if they cared for. The Brain lifted Pinky and tossed him out of the cage and out into the horrifying creatures. The snake didn't hesitate to rip its fangs into Pinky's brain. As non-animated and actual life, very life-like guts and blood flew out and engulfed the entire television screen. I almost wanted to lick it just to see if it was real, but I only tasted my own blood and didn't want to risk getting an STD, so I just stared. What the You have to make everything like sexual or like stupid. I feel like this is a meme. This is like a troll thing. This is stupidly funny, but also fucking stupid. I opened up the VCR and checked the part of the label of the tape that was still visible. It now said The Brain, the one we once was lost and now it's found episode. Now I know what they're thinking. And I feel like I've said this before, but I'll say it again anyway. I'm no Galileo, and I'm no Sheldon Cooper. I'm not even Galsworthy. I feel like you're just naming famous people because you're gonna suck their dick later. But there's one thing I do know. When it's wrong, that's no good. This time, I went to finish the job of erecting the tape. I got up from a very comfortable position, even though both of my legs had fallen asleep. But I woke them up and darted straight over to the player. I hit the reject button, and then again, and again, and again, and again, but it just didn't work. I don't work either, profoundly stated the mysterious voice in my head. It was the time-traveling homeless midget from earlier, and now he was dominating my thoughts, just like he wanted to dominate me in bed. What? Leave me alone, I screamed, but it was no use. The large-headed dwarf did shut off my TV, but in return he projected the episode into my mind. It was like I had a TV and floated it into my brain, and there was no way of shutting it off, like it was an Xbox One DMR or something. Thank you for the reference. The only way to win is to kill yourself, Mr. Small snickered. Well, shit, I just continued watching the tape in my mind instead. The brain had opened the door into the laboratory basement by attaching a string into the Dr. Seuss's The Grumblick themed Pez dispenser. What? Okay, whatever. I'm guessing there was some kind of joke about that, but again, I tend not to understand those kinds of things. Beats 4 more years of Bush, the brain mumbled to himself before laughing. That explained why I didn't get it. I'm not into good at politic humor. You're right. The brain switched on a light and hopped down the stairs with the greatest of glee. Seemingly symmetrical, he opened the book and found a downstairs desk. He had a swastika on the cover. It had a swastika on the cover. It was a rather crude-looking one as well, as if he was drawn in the Comic Sans font or something. Obviously, this was logically falsic, as as there's no way his brain's tiny hands could have ever been able to open a book. But that's when I remembered that I was watching a cartoon. Your face is a cartoon, I squealed my midgety master. Again, I couldn't find it myself to disagree. Brain went to work, searching within the book for his answers. Let's see. Frozen people, frozen people. Walt Disney? No, him being frozen is just a myth. Nick Costy? Hell, not with what happened last time. George Jetson? Isn't he make-believe? Damn it, the brain cursed to himself. Which wasn't very genius-like, given that cursing is all for small-minded people whose small vocabularies didn't grant them the ability to describe stuff like they wanted to. Those fucking imbeciles. Hester Kane. Damn it, I give up. The brain slapped the book closed as the dust clouds formed and the fart sound was played to provoke a dark humor vibe or something. Despite that, this episode wasn't funny at all. You knew that his inability to find the right person was just building up to some sort of great suspense, and I didn't want to be around to figure out what actually look for. Yet I had no choice but to keep on watching, even if I closed my eyes. The master midget would keep playing the tape in my mind. The brain put his palm under his chin to think. A few seconds passed. I'd heard some tacking noise and was beginning to think that this episode was just a professionally done college prank. But then there was a hand poking in the brain in the back for acknowledgement, and I screamed. There, on the TV in front of me, was Adolf Hitler. What a twist! Brainy Mouse, you creators have already set me free, and soon I will leave this tape and conquer the real Earth with the Master Race before you do. The brain shouted back. The brain stared back at him in horror. No! You have to go with the gig, mein Führer. I almost said mein Führer. We have to pretend that it's just a show because if he knows, then they know. Too late! It's all too late! But the Third Reich approaches. Their dreadful sacrifices this mankind's advancement. And he did. Adolf Hitler stomped on Brain the Mouse as blood, guts, tiny pieces of bone, and whatever else you name went horrifying flying into the TV screen again. And this time, it was close. That I could taste the blood, the guts, and the bone. Do you wish to drink the blood now? The midget man patronized me. I gasped for air, trying to get the disgusting taste of the mouse crab and innards out of my mouth. Is it over? Is the episode over? I pleaded. This episode will be over. This episode will be soon over, because the world will be ending soon, and I will be completely master's binding. The midget master passionately explained. I stopped. I paused. I went to brush my teeth. And the more the flavor of death I finally started to leave my mouth. I jumped onto my bedroom couch and just laid my head down, full of anxiety, and not knowing what authority to call to inform the rebirth of the Third Reich. As the TV show itself, the ending theme played and the final episode ended. My eyesight went back to normal. One of my toes was covered in a brownish slosh that kind of looked like mouse droppings, but it was just reminding me of Pink and the Brain's death more. I just let out a painful, saddening moan. And just then, there was a knocking on my door. Given that the time was unwanted, that it wasn't an unwanted intruder, but somebody with manners who had knocked like a gentleman, I was kind of happy to have a polite visitor. I wiped my tears on a period blood-stained Dunkin' Donuts napkin, and then went to the strangers and, Bob Saget, I know all about it. Let's sit down and talk about it a little. Let me guide you in life, Michael. That's what I'm here for. We made way for my couch, and it was I, sitting in his lap, as if I were his son, and he was actually Danny Tanner in the real life all along. You see, Michelle? Oh, it's not Michael, is it Michelle? What? Is it Michelle or Mike? What is this? You see, Michelle, life is full of changes. Hitler will be returning soon, and the Jewish people will be eliminated if you don't do this right. What's right? That's right. Here, take this. With that, Bob Saget handed me a knife. I used it to try and cut an apple for him, but I accidentally slashed open my hand and bled a lot more. I knew that if I didn't bandage it up otherwise, or seek proper medical treatment, I would meet a sad fate. But if you were to kill yourself, you wouldn't have to see this fate of the Jews being overtaken by Hitler again. Even though you did want to die a few minutes ago. Let it bleed. Thank you, Bob Saget. I'm good. Nope. Let it bleed. Bob Saget sang to me. Let it. Frozen? Are you shitting me? Let it bleed. Let it bleed. Let it bleed. Michelle, let it bleed. The strangest thing was that the Rolling Stones actually wrote a song called Let It Bleed. Did they? I actually don't know. Particularly as I dig on the Beatles' classic Let It Be, but Bob sang it in the melody that later song. This provided me with a deep and powerful series of thoughts as I allowed the blood to seep and pour and closed my eyes, waiting for death's door to approximately travel its way to me. I could feel a Charlie Chaplin mustache growing on me. I was getting a little shorter somehow. Violent thoughts began. Various groups of people began to fill my mind, but I wasn't going to let it be realized. As I let out my last breath, I knew I had done the right thing. The the end, it says. The end. What is this? Did you become Hitler or Michelle? I don't know. Who wrote this? Who wrote this? Who wrote this? I have to scroll back down now. Who? Who did this? Whoever did this. Actually, that was kind of funny. Thank you for taking on the first episode of A Raw Read. Will I do this again? I don't know. You'll have to see later. I am a robot. And now, back to Charlie Chaplin with the weather. This is the end of the joke.